What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Being Beautifully Honest channel and podcast. If you are on the podcast platforms, please do go ahead and subscribe. And if you are listening to this on YouTube, please subscribe and hit that like button while you're at it. It's like, why not? You want to go ahead and brighten up the place. So let's just go ahead and hit that light switch. So let's get into this conversation / reality chat. Nene Leakes, she shared her pretty much real thoughts on the Breakfast Club recently when she appeared as a guest host on the show, and she was asked some questions about the Real Housewives franchise. We know that Nene, she definitely is one of the most well-known out of the entire Housewives franchise. There's no doubt about that. You cannot take that away from her. But, when she was on the show and she was asked some questions, this isn't anything new. Nene Leakes, she is known for when she is feeling a certain type of way, her thoughts and opinions that she shared is usually skewed based on the situation at the time. And right now, as it stands, she is definitely on the outs with the Real Housewives franchise and just Bravo TV overall. We know that she sued the network, named Andy Cohen and a number of other entities in the lawsuit, and claimed that they were racist and all of these other things. And this was all after she exited the show, not during the time that she was on the show, all after exiting. And a lot of people felt like she was right in doing so and agree with some of the things that were brought up in the litigation. And multiple things can be true at the same time. But, it's just weird to be leaving a job, because let's face it, that was her job, her career. We'll call it a career. We won't call it a job. It wasn't like she was working at McDonald's, but she left this career, I would say, in a way, terminated. But we know the way that they do it, it's rare that they literally fire people. Like when they fired Jenny Nguyen, who was accused of racism, literally, and it was proven when she was on one season of The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. And that is something that is rarely done. Usually they will allow people to say that, well, I chose to leave, or I didn't like the way the contract looked, or I was offered a friend role and I just decided to just step away completely. So they'll offer someone a contract that may not be favorable to see if they're willing to accept it or reject it. And in that way, you've left on your own recognizance. Because to be honest with you, even though Bravo, I'm sure it's different because they're literally contractors. They're independent contractors. So it's not like they get a W-2 form, Bravo TV or NBC Universal, whoever signs the paychecks is taking taxes out of their paychecks like I do. I'm an employer. I have employees. I don't have independent contractors that work in my company in the States. So my company pays taxes. I pay payroll taxes, and I have to take taxes out of their paychecks. They don't do that on Bravo TV. They're independent contractors. So that's why you see stories about these people owing back taxes, because when you're an independent contractor, you're responsible for paying your own taxes. So that's why a lot of them get in those situations, is because they're not paying their taxes. And a lot of them, prior to coming on these shows, they're used to being an employee. So they're used to having those taxes swiped out of their checks before they even see any of their money, so they never really have to deal with that. It's a whole different ball game once you get up into this arena. But here's what I wanted to talk about. She, of course, she threw shade, and she was saying that the people that are on these shows, they're not memorable, they are not stars, and she doesn't really know anybody. So she said these things on The Breakfast Club, and she said, quote, "These girls on these shows, they're just not stars. If you really look at it, all of the stars that were on any of these franchises, they took them off and everybody that is left is starless." okay, is Nene telling the truth, or is she just bitter? Literally. And listen, I'm not here to say that she may not have a point when it comes to some of the people that are on these shows now and those who are no longer on the shows. But the reason why she's saying that is because she is one of the people who is no longer on the Housewives franchise. So she's pretty much putting herself in the mix with who she's speaking about, because honestly, she's really speaking more about herself than any other housewife, or former housewife, I should say, who used to be on one of the cities in the franchise, period. We know Vicki Gunvalson, who was the OG of the OC. She literally started everything. So as much as Nene likes to claim that she started it, Real Housewives of Orange County started it all. And a lot of people don't even really like to give it that respect, but I get it, because Real Housewives of Atlanta, it became a lot more popular in terms of the popularity once it really sprung off. And it was the first all black, well, it wasn't all black because Kim Zolciak was on there. But of course, back then, she claimed that she was a white girl in a black girl's, she was a black girl in a white girl's body. That's what she claimed back then, okay? Do you all remember those days? God, that seems like forever ago. But she is really speaking more about herself than anybody else. So what's funny is she is co-host on The Breakfast Club, and Robin Dixon and Giselle Bryant of the Real Housewives of Potomac, she was really throwing a whole lot more shade against them. And they have a podcast that is a part of Charlemagne's company. So to me, in a way, I could be wrong, but I'm just being beautifully honest. You let me know your thoughts. I feel like in a way, Nene was pretty much saying, you have these two losers that nobody really knows about, and you are giving them this podcast opportunity when I'm the star. Like, what are you doing? That's what I felt like she really wanted to say. But without saying that, she said it. Because she called Robin starless Robin Dixon. She called her that, you know what I'm saying? And she just was basically like, there's nobody really worth mentioning that is on any of these shows, and I don't watch them. So she's pretty much in this place of, if I am no longer on the show, that Housewives franchise is trash, and nobody else who's currently on the show, they're not stars. Now listen, we know that that's not true. And as much as people may love Kandi Burruss or even hate Kandi Burruss, you cannot deny that Kandi of the Real Housewives of Atlanta, she was a star before she came on to the Real Housewives of Atlanta in season 2. Okay. And at the time, that was groundbreaking, because this is the thing. And that's why what Nene is saying right now to me seems a bit hypocritical and asinine. The Real Housewives wasn't supposed to be about celebrities. It was supposed to be about, although rich and wealthy, that's what it was supposed to be. Of course, we know a lot of that was lies, especially when the story started coming out about Real Housewives of Atlanta houses being in foreclosure and all of these other things coming up about these people's, not even their past, but their current situations, getting evicted and all kinds of, things like that. It was supposed to be about people who were not famous. That's what it was really supposed to be back then when it started out. It was just supposed to be, okay, when you started out, it was the Real Housewives of Orange County. It was about life behind the gates. Literally just people who were wealthy, living in gated communities in Orange County, living a fabulous life, but they were not famous. That's what it was supposed to be about back then. So when Candy joined the Real Housewives of Atlanta, that literally was groundbreaking at that time, because that was the first time a celebrity came onto this reality show. And that, in my opinion, I could be wrong, but this is my opinion. And yes, I know what I don't know, where is it now? What, season 16, 17? I don't know, of the Real Housewives of Atlanta. I believe that it's really gone too far anyway. But back then, season 1, people really saw Nene and saw that she was the one that stood out amongst all of the other castmates. Okay, cool. But bringing Candy onto the Real Housewives of Atlanta, that, I believe, brought in more people, because that, again, was groundbreaking at that time. Bringing a celebrity onto a show that was supposed to be about normal people. They just happened to be rich. Yeah, we know the first season, Deshawn, or whatever her name is, I think her name was Deshawn Snow. She was married to a basketball player at the time. Okay, but even he was not famous. He was a basketball player in the NBA, but he wasn't like Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, like big names. A lot of people didn't even really know who he was. And she was married to this man. So again, they were wealthy, but they were not celebrities. So now with Nene talking about there are no stars on the show, in actuality, as much as people may forget about it because the Housewives franchise has gone on for so long, this show wasn't even supposed to be about celebrities or stars. Like she says, there are no stars. So to be honest, I feel that Nene, she has not learned any humility in this time of being out of the spotlight of the Housewives. No doubt, she's definitely made headlines for other reasons. And I'm not going to get into all of those in this conversation. But it wasn't supposed to be about stars. She got opportunities by being on Glee, and that show that got canceled maybe after, I don't know, the first or second season, The New Normal, which, to be honest, she was not really having to reach down deep to be an actress in that, because she was just pretty much being herself, but just a different name and playing a role, but nothing was different about her personality, the way she spoke, like none of it. It was, listen, let's just be real. That was a gift that was given to her because Ryan Murphy at the time was good friends with Andy Cohen, and he liked her. And I feel like he liked her ghetto fabulousness, and he wanted to utilize that on his show, because also she had a large following of people who really liked her and supported her, and that was also going to bring her views. Let's just keep it 100 with that. So the fact that she is out here now talking about the stars are no longer on these cities of the Real Housewives, they're just no stars anymore. Listen, I may not even want to call these people stars, but Teresa Giudice is definitely as known as Nene Leakes is. She's still on the Real Housewives of New Jersey. Let's just be honest, okay? Kyle, Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, don't really care for her either, but she's still on the show. Undeniably, people know her, whether you like her or not. She's definitely still there. Like, she's speaking about herself. She's not speaking about all of the other people who are no longer on the Housewives anymore. And Candy, as much as people, again, may hate her or even love her, she's definitely still on the Real Housewives of Atlanta. So now that she's friends with Portia again, and Portia's no longer on the Real Housewives, she's talking about herself, her friend Portia, and, and maybe name a few others. But for the most part, the Housewives, the reason why it continues to go is because it is Bravo's cash cow, period. It's Bravo's cash cow. So that's one of the reasons why they keep it going. But if they were to be 100% real and it wasn't just about the money, this stuff would have ended a long time ago. And that's the problem with shows like this. People like Nene, they get the big egos and the big head, and they forgot where they came from. And now you want to be called a star, a celebrity. Give me a freaking break. You started out on this show being an essentially unknown person, proclaiming to live a larger lifestyle than you actually were living at the time you came on. So you came on pretty much fraudulently. You got evicted from that home that you were in, that you all were renting, and then you got another home that you were renting, and you were able to move on up because your finances were increasing, and then you just got a big head and a big ego, and it was just like ridiculous. People like Nene she's her own worst enemy, and I just hate to see that, because again, this show didn't start out because it was supposed to be making celebrities, but they got opportunities from it, and then they started calling these people bravo-lebrities or reality stars. Like, it started becoming that because they started to just recognize, like, look, these people may not be celebrities, but they are known, so we gotta call them something. So they started giving them those titles. So they were calling them the Bravo celebrities or reality stars, but they wouldn't give them the title star or celebrity. And now that she feels that she has reached that pinnacle or that title, now she's looking down her nose at everyone else. Look, she has every right to not watch the Housewives anymore. I wouldn't say that I would want to look at something that I used to be involved in where I left and the manner that I left wasn't the best. I wouldn't want to watch it either. So, because I definitely don't really, I don't recommend, and nor do I do this, hate watch things, sit and watch things just for the sake of hating. Now, if I have to watch or look at something or read something for the sake of getting knowledge about something or getting information about it, not just for the sake of sitting there and watching it and hating it the whole time, like, that's such a total waste of energy. I don't recommend doing that either. And I don't even know if she's telling the truth. She could be lying and saying she doesn't watch it when she actually does, but she probably doesn't watch it because it would probably hurt her too much. I believe that Nene is that type of person where she builds up that hard shell, and it's hard for her to admit when she's hurt. So she will allow, instead of the hurt to show and being vulnerable, she wants to act harder and tougher than she actually really is. And that's a huge turnoff. And people don't give sympathy for people in situations like that. But, no doubt about it, Bethany Frankel has become a celebrity. She's no longer on the show. She left on her own terms. And, Lisa Vanderpump, she left on her own terms. She's definitely well known, but she still has Vanderpump rules. So, I mean, let's just be real, Nene. You cannot say that everyone who was removed from the Housewives were all of the stars and everyone else that's left isn't. She's just not going to be winning the favor with a lot of these women that are still on these shows because, some may just brush it off their shoulder and say, oh, whatever, big deal. She's bitter because she's hurt. Okay, And then others may be really offended by that and take it personally because they see themselves as a breakout star or whatever. She makes it really hard to feel any type of sympathy for her. And Ebony K. Williams, who was on one season of The Real Housewives of New York City, she actually responded to Nene in that situation because apparently she didn't take too kindly to it, and that's like I was just saying. So Ebony, she was guest hosting on The Breakfast Club. What do you know? Was that already in the schedule? Was that a coincidence? I don't know. But she responded to it, and she said that, yeah, she knows me because Nene was like, she doesn't know anyone that's on the show anymore. She doesn't know anyone. So she decided to show proof that they know each other, that they've direct messaged each other, and she showed it to them. And she said that, that's just what it is. I mean, I'm not trying to call her a liar, but for her to say that she doesn't know anyone, because when they asked Ebony about what Nene Leakes was saying, because they asked Nene Leakes, do you know Ebony? And she said, no, I don't know her. She like did a Mariah Carey. and it took her by surprise, because when she said, these girls on these shows, they're just not stars. If you really look at it, all of the stars that were on any of these franchises, they took them off, and everybody that is left is starless. And oh my God, just that comment alone is just like, wow. So they asked her about Ebony K. Williams, and she said, I don't know her either. Is she famous or is she known? And, it's comments like that. Nene she has not come down off of that high horse. She's that type of person that feels like people are beneath her. And you know what? I was about to say something, but I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to say that. But what I will say is that people like that, who look their noses up and they feel that they're too good for people, those are the ones that come crashing down. And to be honest with you, how long has Nene been down now? Since she left The Real Housewives, and she acted as if that show couldn't go on without her. I don't believe that the ratings has anything to do with Nene no longer being on the show. I just believe that, like all of the Housewives franchises, it's gone on too long. You know what I'm saying? 16, 17 seasons. Most television shows, they have an ending. And I know that there have been those rarities like soap operas, The Young and the Restless. Like, I've never watched soap operas before. I don't know all of the names of them, but I know a lot of those have been on for like ages. But most shows, they have an ending. And I mean, if you look at The Simpsons, they've been on forever and they're still having new seasons coming out, and that's just like incredible. But they're cartoons, like Family Guy, like what season it is, like, I don't know, 20 seasons or something. They're cartoons. It's just different when it comes to people. People age and people age out. Nene is not the same age that she was when the show started back in whenever. And I'm not here to age shame anyone or say that, the people that are on there now are too old. But let's just be honest. You get to the point when it's like if you're going to keep doing the same thing, you got to switch some things up and you have to pivot in order to keep going. And just like any company, for example, a business, you have these amazing people that are on the staff and they have to do certain tasks and they do them amazingly well. But someone who's been on the job for 20, 30 years, if that happens anymore, I don't know if it does, you're going to have to start looking for younger talent, because at some point those older people are going to retire. They may have health issues, things may happen, and you have to have people come in, not just to replace them immediately, but definitely to support them and support the business so that the business can continue to go forward. So myself, looking at this as an employer and as a business owner, they have to do things differently. They can't continue having Nene on there from the age that she was when she started, whenever that was, to freaking 70 years old, like, and you're still trying to look the same age that you were when you started. I mean, can you imagine that? If they're going to keep the Housewives franchise going, they're going to have to bring in new people. They can't just keep doing the same thing. And in all honesty, if they wanted to do things in a way where it was going to always be fresh and new for the most part, I'm not saying they would get rid of everybody every season, but if they would bring in some new friends every season and see how these people are taking to this casting and this cast and what they do on the show, which, I mean, most of it is nonsense. I get it, but it's supposed to be reality. It's supposed to be their real lives. Then these friends may start to cycle out some of these housewives, and then they just continue to do this every season, because you have shows like, just naming some shows like Big Brother and things like that. Even though I know those are competition shows, but they're reality. They don't have the same people on every season. They bring new people on. People don't stop watching because it's like, oh, I want to see the person who was on last season. Like, where did she go, or where did he go? No, they're continuously bringing new people on. And I also believe that it would help humble, or bring in the status of people feeling just grateful for the opportunity versus feeling entitled, like Nene got to, because Nene became extremely entitled. Look, I could go on and on when it comes to this topic, but I just really wanted to talk about this because I believe that Nene is just in this state of bitterness that she cannot break out of. And it's sad to see it, because you don't get anywhere when you operate in bitterness. You really have to get out of that if you really want to see things change for the better. I know she's had some losses. She's lost her husband due to, him going through that battle with the health issue. I don't even like to say that word. And then, passing away. She lost her clothing boutiques. Her lounge, I believe, is closed. She's gone through a lot. I get it. But again, the bitterness of being no longer a part of the Housewives franchise, I believe, may have contributed to some of that. So she has to learn to really self-reflect, take accountability and an account for what she is doing, and move forward with her life if she really wants to see things change for the better. Because going on like this and basically making people feel inferior to her when she talks about the people who are left on the show, they're starless. Who are they? They're not stars. I don't know them. You're offending people, and you're not going to get to this place of people wanting to bring you back on. So it's just something that she's going to have to think about. But guys, in my opinion, I believe that she is wrong. And I believe that she is bitter. But you guys can let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section respectfully. Thank you so much for liking and subscribing. And until the next time, this is Beth, and I'm just being beautifully honest.